And this mantra is inspired by nature. And it's also a little bit influenced by the new moon, which is occurring right now, and it's shifting into Taurus. And so the influence of nature is fairly easy to see in this mantra because we're talking about nourishment and it's springtime. And the springtime is that time of year when all of the little seeds that we've planted in the earth are being given an abundance of water, which carries nutrients into their seed. And they're being given a longer exposure to sun. I'm going to take this off Wi-Fi because it will be better. They're being given a longer exposure to the sun, which increases the amount of warmth and helps them be nourished and able to grow and develop. And so that's the aspect of nature that's kind of influencing this mantra. And the aspect of the new moon is that the archetype of Taurus is very much about stability. And this particular archetype does like to be surrounded by things that are a reflection of their accomplishments or the things that comfort and nurture them and their nature. So a little combination of the two, because naturally we're not averse to our environment and the things that are occurring. And so thinking of this mantra, it just kind of came through that both aspects were present. So again, we're going to be using may I be nourished internally and externally. And so thinking about the word nourishment and what that actually means, nourishment it's the substances that we need that are necessary for growth, that are necessary for our health and for us to be in good condition of balance and harmony. And so when we think about external nourishment, that might be a little bit more obvious. I'm sure it's easy for you to think about these things like, we need basic needs like water, food, and shelter. We also need external things to nourish us in terms of different relationships that offer us different levels of emotional intimacy. We need different physical movements that offer us the capacity to be challenged and also to be soothed and relaxed. We need mental exercise in order to inspire and encourage our memory to stay strong. And we need problem-solving capabilities or opportunities in order to keep our brain active and expansive. And so these are some of the external things that we can receive from our environment and from our interaction with people in our environment and objects in our environment that can be very nourishing to us. But the thought about internal nourishment, purely internal nourishment, was just required a little bit more thought. And I'm absolutely open if you guys have any thoughts about what that would look like for you. What would internal nourishment look like? If there are any words that come to mind or any practices that pop into mind, please just share and type them. There's no right or wrong, really. It's individual. So one of the things that came up in my exploration of this was acceptance. And acceptance is something that we can offer to ourselves, and it contributes to our ability to grow from a place of empowerment. And when we feel accepted, we have the choice. We feel more empowered to make that choice to see ourselves as we are and to consciously decide that we want to be better, or that we want to improve our response, or we want to grow and challenge ourselves in new ways. When we accept ourselves where we are, we say yes to ourselves. We say, yes, you are exactly enough. You are worthy of everything that you believe you're worthy of. And it feels more expansive, the word, and the acceptance, the vibration of acceptance, it's more expansive. And when we think about the opposing force of acceptance, it would be something like judgment. And judgment is much more contractual. We can feel that our body can get tight. We feel a shortness, a contraction in the physical body and the energetic field. And so choosing acceptance over judgment is one of the ways that we can nourish ourselves internally. And so we are going to use this mantra, may I be nourished internally and externally, and we're going to expand it outwards in the circles. May you be nourished, may all beings be nourished. But before we begin that, I wanted to explore a little bit more into acceptance. And I want to do that through leading you through an internal guidance that we can begin now. So if you are in a seated, comfortable position, close your eyes. And obviously, if you have to move about the world, just stay as you are and keep your ears open. Close your eyes and just take a breath, any way that the breath goes in, any way that the breath comes out. Just normal breathing, nothing forced. And just see if you can start to notice where your body expands as you breathe. It may be observable that the shoulders and the chest are moving. You may notice the ribs expanding and contracting as air enters and exits. And on your next inhale breath, see if you can consciously pull the breath in through your nose and feel it hit the back of your throat. And then start to send it down the throat. Feel it linger around the collarbone. Just keep breathing in and out. Every inhale, bringing your awareness to where the breath is traveling, pulling it a little deeper. Letting it reside in your chest, noticing that the chest rises and falls. On your next inhale, pull it a little deeper. See if you can pull it down to where your sternum ends, the center point of your chest, and where your ribs begin to open, allowing space for the lungs. And on your next inhale, see if you can pull it down a little bit deeper, just above the belly button. You might start to feel more of the abdomen expanding and contracting. Just keep breathing naturally. Notice as you breathe that the backside of your low spine may also be expanding. As you pull that breath lower and lower into your body. And on your next inhale breath, pull the breath a little bit deeper so it's below your navel. See if you can notice if the breath has naturally gotten a bit longer and deeper in order to connect more deeply within your body. Keeping the eyes closed, keep breathing low into your body. And what I want to invite you to do is to scan through your mind and allow yourself to land on a moment in time where you were in judgment. It may be small, it may be large, it doesn't matter. You may have judged the way someone else looks, what someone else has said, or the way that they were doing things. Breathe into that place of judgment. As if you're right back there in that moment, but from an observational place. You can see the part of you in judgment, and you can see the part of you that is observing yourself in judgment. Breathe into your belly. Some of you may notice a subtle change in the body as you connect to the feeling of judgment. And from the place where you are observing yourself in that moment, I want you to say internally, I see you. Take a deep breath. I accept you. Take a deep breath. I see you. Take a deep breath. I accept you. Keep breathing low into your belly. Acceptance does not have to mean agree. It is just acknowledging that from that place, in that moment, you did the best you could with what you knew how to do. You acted from the awareness that was available to you at the time. Breathe into your body. I see you. I accept you. Breathe. Feel the belly expand. Breathe. I see you. I accept you. Just keep the eyes closed. Continue to breathe. And continue to send acceptance to yourself in that moment in time. Notice where the body relaxes as acceptance moves throughout. Holding on to this feeling of acceptance, we will begin our mantra and prayer. We open our hearts to the counsels of light that surround us, to the spirits that guide us and the angels that watch over us. Please hear our prayer. Let's begin. Take an inhale. May I be nourished internally and externally. 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 Inhale. May I be nourished. Inhale. May I be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. Inhale. May I be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. May I be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. May I be nourished. Inhale. May I be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. May I be nourished. Inhale. May I be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. Inhale. May I be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. Inhale. May I be nourished. Inhale. May I be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. Take a big inhale breath. We'll begin the second round. Enjoying the sounds that surround us. We will offer this prayer outwardly. See if you can begin with a neutral person in your life. Someone whose face is familiar, but you have no emotional connection to. Holding this person in your mind and the feeling of acceptance deep within you. we offer this prayer. Naturally, as we offer it, if the faces and energies of those we love come into view, we can expand it outwardly. Let's begin. Take an inhale. May you be nourished internally and externally. 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 Inhale. May you be nourished. Inhale. May you be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. May you be nourished. Inhale. May you be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. Inhale. May you be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. Inhale. May you be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. 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 May you be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. 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 May you be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. Take a big inhale breath. Exhale out the mouth. We begin our final round, offering to all beings. Just allowing your concentration of energy to move outwards to those maybe within your home, on your street, in your neighborhood. And just naturally let your heart expand as you connect to that feeling of acceptance and how it can nourish you. Let us send it outwards to all beings. Let's begin. Take an inhale. May all beings be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. May all beings be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. May all beings be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. May all beings be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. May all beings be nourished. Inhale. May all beings be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. Inhale. May all beings be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. 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 May all beings be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. Inhale. May all beings be nourished. Inhale. Inhale. May all beings be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. 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 May all beings be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. May all beings be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. Inhale. May all beings be nourished internally and externally. Inhale. Exhale out the mouth. Keeping the eyes closed. Bringing your hands to prayer or maybe on your heart. We ask to be able to receive nourishment from our environment and all things that surround us. Let us be able to feel supported in our growth through the relationships that are offered to us, through the sunlight that touches our face, through the nutrients carried in our food and our water, and through the feeling of security in having a home to provide us shelter. Let us be nourished internally by our ability to accept and provide acceptance to ourselves and to others. Let us trust that in accepting things as they are, we are not stuck and bound there eternally. We simply say yes to what is and trust that in time, like all things, there will be change. Thank you so much for joining, guys. All my love to you. I hope that you are feeling safe and staying well in these very special times, very unique times. My thoughts are with you, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.